Hello everybody and welcome to Pointtaa&Klikkaa Podcast, and today I have two very special guests. Who am I talking to? Can you please introduce yourselves?
I'm Roberta Williams.
And I'm Ken Williams. And you may know us from our days running Sierra Online. And we sold the company and retired, but now we're back with a new game.
Yes, we are. After 25 years, believe it or not, with a new game, Colossal Cave.
And it's actually, I heard you say it's a point and click podcast. And that's been part of the controversy that I think a lot of today's world is not quite accustomed to a point and click. We even did point and click in our VR game, and everybody's like, why can't I reach out and touch the stuff? I want to do we designed it to be point and click, and we like point and click. So anyway, sorry.
Who doesn't like point and click games?
Yeah, it's actually easier, with the VR. They want the hands, you have the hand, you manipulate and you do all this, which, and I've done that with VR. I find it, maybe someday it'll get better. But it feels a bit clunky to me, to try to do that. You're trying to, do that. And I just decided, to keep it point and click, even on VR, because in all honesty, though it's not as cool to do, it's easier. You get the job done easy.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
So the two of you are in Mexico right now. Did you?
Cabo San Lucas.
Yeah, did you go away from the commotion of?
Well, it's been almost 2 years of working on the game, and the last year was pretty intense with 12-hour days, 7 days a week, and so we planned a long time ago that the day the game is out the door, that we'll run off to Mexico, go to the beach, relax for a few days, and unwind.
It's funny, though, because we have our computers. We've got 3 computers here with us. This is Ken's, and mine is right here next to him on this table. And then he has his backup computer. He brought his backup computer, and we're obviously doing interviews, so we're still.
Well, we also brought a Nintendo Switch and a Quest 2 and a Steam Deck. So it's a vacation on the beach without the vacation part to getting away.
I don't know. We may not be on the beach quite as much as we probably are going to still be on our computers.
And you can have a margarita every now and then, I guess.
Every now and then.
We need one. But no, it's been a lot of hard work. And I don't know, it's exciting to see people starting to play the game and enjoy the game and read all the feedback, and kind of an exciting time. And that's our doggy. Wants to say.
He can come.
We traveled with our dogs.
Yeah,
yes.
They can come meet the viewers if they want to.
Well, we're happy to talk about anything. We can talk about Sierra, or as you know, we did Sierra Online and started it way back with the game Colossal Cave that Roberta played, got us excited about it, and that launched Sierra. And actually launched a lot of people's careers. As we've talked to people around the industry, many of the people that were young then now are not quite as young now, and they're running a lot of the companies around the industry. Mm-hmm. And all of them remember their first game as Colossal Cave. And we treated the project kind of like preserving history. And because, we just thought it's something kind of out of time, something different for people to try and to see what it was like back at the start of the industry. So.
Yeah, since Colossal Cave isn't a Sierra game, it was around a lot more time before Sierra came too, and it was in a way making the remake is a full circle, if I understood correctly.
Yes.
Yeah, it seemed very symmetrical to take the game that launched Sierra. Even though we didn't make it, we played it and we said, this is kind of cool. We should try to do something like this, but people want pictures. And so we tried to do kind of an adventure game and do pictures. But in those days, the computers were not very powerful. There was no compilers. There was no tools of any sort. There was no art editors. There was no concept of music. And even when we started doing graphics on the computer, nobody expected it to be possible. It was really it was just a toy in those days, or it was kind of the beginning of something new. And we did the game Mystery House, and Roberta designed it, and I figured out how to shoehorn it onto a 80K floppy. And the modern world, if they had to deal with only 80K on an entire disk drive, no hard drive, and every time you changed rooms, it was a long load. It was a different world, but it worked. Obviously, we created a really big company out of it, and each game got a little better, and we went with technology.
Yeah, I read that in the beginning when you started out, you put the games in Ziploc bags and printed out a manual. How many of those did you do by yourself?
Thousands.
in your own home?
Well, we were doing that at first. And in fact, Ken and I, we started off with one Apple II computer. We got a second Apple II computer so that we could simultaneously copy floppy disks for Mystery House, for instance.
Yeah, the big
and we'd
big
be
floppy
sitting there
disks.
at night. Yeah, the floppy disks.
Yeah.
And and we would be there sitting side by side. He on an Apple II computer, me on an Apple II computer, putting in a floppy disk. Copying the game onto that floppy, taking it out, setting it aside, putting in the next floppy disk. Copying it on, take it out, set it aside, and the next one. Just together, watching TV or whatever while we were doing it. Then putting them in the Ziploc bags and taking them to the local computer store. That's what we did at first.
Yeah. Ken, you were working at in the computer industry, and but Roberta, what were your career plans at that time?
Well, that was a very good question. And honestly, that's one reason why I love this game, Colossal Cave, is because it's this game that gave me my career. I had learned some programming. I had done a little bit of programming out there in the world, COBOL. Did it for a while. I didn't particularly enjoy it. He just got rid of you for a moment there. Don't play. Don't play. Don't play. And I did some COBOL programming for about 6 months, and I decided I took some classes and I didn't like it. And I also had done some computer operations on IBM mainframes, 360s, in a couple of corporations. I managed to get computer operating jobs, so I did that. So I had a little bit of computer work, but nothing like Ken. I mean, he's just a natural computers. He loves computer programming and languages and technology. And that's just natural for him. It wasn't for me. And I had just had my second child and was really not working at the moment, just floundering around, trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I'd always been very creative, imaginative. My mom told me, she said, you always told me that you wanted to write children's books or write movies, but I always wanted to do something in writing. So I still didn't know what I wanted to do. And I played Colossal Cave. I loved it. I got obsessed by it. I'd never been so obsessed with anything until I played this game. Text, of course, full text game. And you had to map it as you played it. You had to have a graph paper and a big piece of paper next to you, and as you go through it, you had to map where you were and everything. And by the time I finished the game, I had a full map and I had my notes on it. And I looked at it and I realized I could look at this map that I had created with all my notes, and I knew exactly what this game was. And that's what taught me how to design computer adventure games. And I just sat down and did the same thing with Mystery House. I just mapped it out the same way I did this game, Colossal Cave. And that started my career.
So you kind of deconstructed the game.
Yes. That's why this game is so important to me. It told me what I was, I guess, what my passion really was. And it got me into this career. And so I love this game.
Then moving on, you went on to make Cranston Manor and Time Zone and other games when you moved into Oakhurst.
Mystery House first, and then Wizard and the Princess.
Yeah, Wizard and the Princess. Yeah.
Wizard and the Princess, and then I did something called Mission: Asteroid, like Mission Impossible. I did Mission Asteroid, and that was a really funny game. That was a fun game, but yeah, so we did quite a few games.
I didn't remember you did that game. I was thinking somebody else did.
I did that game.
Okay.
That was where you. There was an asteroid that was going to come and hit the Earth, and and it was a fairly big asteroid, and so if it hit the Earth, then of course we're all going to die, and so we had to figure out a way to deflect or blow up the asteroid or something, and so the little game I did was based upon that.
Well, the plot.
I was ahead of my time.
Yeah, now they do.
Now they do that.
So first you made games by yourselves, and then you started hiring people. And I talked with Al Lowe some time ago, and he used to be a school teacher turned to a game developer. But when I started reading on Sierra's history, I found out you hired people literally from Mark Crow was working in a kitchen. Or was Scott Murphy working in a kitchen? I'm not sure.
Probably Scott Murphy. That's
Mark was the artist. Yeah.
Yeah, Mark was the artist.
Yeah.
No, we brought a lot of there was nobody from the industry to hire. I mean, in a way,
it was early.
Yeah, somebody just told me that almost every, they had never met a kid that didn't want to grow up and be a game developer, and that's different than when I was starting Sierra, where nobody dreamed of that. And in fact, amongst professional programmers, it would have been considered kind of demeaning to have to work on a game. It was not something that a serious person would have considered. So I kind of had to hire what people I could find. Plus, we were located at Yosemite National Park, which is
it's up in the mountains.
Yeah, it's
Central California.
Yeah. It's a wonderful place to be retired, or if you're liking to hike, or if you're, and in those days, there were only two kind of people there. It was either retired people or kind of hippies that wanted to get away from civilization and live in the woods. And we started there, and Roberta and I, when we first wanted to live there,
we wanted to raise our children in this wonderful small town environment.
I think if we had known Sierra was going to become a big public company and a real company,
and my parents were there too.
Yeah,
that's important.
And base there. So we had no choice, I guess, is the quick answer to the question. We had to take whoever we could find and whoever was willing to move there and put them to work. And we did. And the people rose to the occasion. Most people are capable of more than they think.
Yes, they are.
People that are willing to work hard, or people that are willing to work hard, and a smart person willing to work hard can
do anything.
They
can.
It's
people have to have more faith in themselves, actually, I think.
Right now, when you finished working with the Colossal Cave, you had smaller group, I understood. How many people did you have working on Colossal Cave?
About 35, more
35.
or less.
So
it might have been a little more,
but
yeah, it was small but not tiny.
Yeah, about the same-ish, I guess, at like the start of Sierra years, or is it anything in the same ballpark?
Well, I mean, probably toward the end with like Phantasmagoria, we probably had 100 people working on it.
On the game.
The game, but and on like a King's Quest 1, there might have been, although it depends on how you count, because Sierra was unique in that we did our own engine. So we actually were divided into groups. We had an engine group that was doing like what Unity is doing or Unreal is doing. And so the engine group was fairly big. And then we were divided into an art group, and artists were pulled in as needed. And we had a music group, and we had a sound effects group, and we had a QA designers. We had a QA group. So, yeah, I mean, we actually, it was Sierra was, people don't understand that it was kind of a product development machine, and that we had about 700 people in development and only about 300 in manufacturing and marketing. And there was 1,000 people, but over 2/3 were working in development.
Yeah, we were always slanted towards development with Sierra.
We were all internal development, whereas a lot of companies farm out their development. We were, I had an attitude in those days that I really didn't want to do a Me Too game. I didn't want to know what other people were doing, and I didn't want any team members who had worked on somebody else's game.
We wanted people to do it the Sierra way, our way.
Well, I think part of the problem even with this game is that we're not doing exactly what everybody in the industry does. We're kind of doing our thing our way. And whereas when you get a whole lot, there gets to be a lot of inbreeding, I guess you'd call it after a while, when you get all the companies that are hiring each other's employees, and there can be
they all come with it, the same ideas. And we always would come at our game development from our own perspective and what we wanted, what we thought. We never really did play games too much. We would look at our competitors at the time, see what they were doing, and it would give us some ideas, but we never copied.
Well,
never did.
Yeah, and there's a game
they copied us.
There's a game development strategy that says, look at the market, see what's selling, and do more of that. Yeah. And our strategy was always look at the person, pick somebody who's passionate about something, and have it build something they really care about. And if the market niche is small, it's small, but at least those that play it. So, I mean, we did things like cribbage and bass fishing. We did, we did a lot of unusual stuff.
Games.
Yeah, things that didn't necessarily have the world's biggest market, but that fans of that genre were passionate about. And we were kind of all over the map in a good way.
Genre-based.
And it worked well for us because I think people sensed the passion in the products. So,
like from your perspective, Allo told me that in the early days of Sierra, it was more like group of friends getting together, making games. How did it feel like from your perspective in the early days?
Like a whole lot of friends getting together, making games.
Like at first.
Even when we had competitors. I mean, in the early days.
Competitors.
Yeah, we were extremely friendly with Broderbund, Sirius Software, Adventure International. We'd all go on whitewater trips together. And
had parties. A
lot of parties. Everybody would come.
In the industry, it was very friendly.
Yeah.
Like Ken said, between the different companies developing. And in those days, they were called computer games.
Yeah.
Because everything was on a computer.
Yeah.
And among the employees, but at some point though, things did get more developed. How do I say more business? More serious.
Yeah.
More competitive.
Yeah. It was. And just to interrupt you about one particular year, 1983. I'm guessing that was a kind of a
wake-up call?
Yeah, divider. And also, I was
Yeah.
born on that year, so important year for me at least.
Well, that was a good year then.
Now, there'll probably be more of those. I mean, industries tend to be cyclical, and there'll be good times and bad times. And although it's almost inconceivable to dream of it today, in that the bottom fell out of the console market. Nintendo couldn't sell cartridges. Sega couldn't sell.
83.
Yeah, in 83. I mean, the world just kind of ended for the console business. That was when they were burying ET cartridges out in the desert.
Yeah.
And
they were.
Yeah, we had.
It almost took us under because we also got into the cartridge business because our board, I guess, and our venture capitalists wanted us to do that.
Yeah.
And I was highly against it, but we went along. We figured they knew best. We were just, in our early mid-20s. And what did we know?
Yeah.
But
what did anyone know?
We almost threw out the whole company to go to the cartridge games, except for King's Quest. I was developing that, thank God, for the PC and Apple. No, not for Apple. No, PC. Yeah,
PC. I don't think
because it was because it was started with the PC Junior, and I was just happened to be developing it, and when that whole business, the cartridge business, console, set top boxes just collapsed. We almost collapsed with it. We were hanging on by our fingertips, and it was King's Quest that saved us. It came out just in the nick of time and did really well.
Well, it was,
and we learned a lot.
Probably a good thing. It matured us and made us take business a lot more seriously, and
the whole industry, everybody. And you're right, that changed. That was really what I was thinking in my mind when I said at some point we all had to grow up. Yeah, and we did.
I grew up playing your games because English isn't my native language. You basically taught me to speak English, type and read English before I could even type or read in Finnish.
Well, I'm happy to help.
I also told this to Allo, but something like when I went through your games in the late 80s when Sierra was listed in the exchange, I think I felt something in the games. There was some sort of like in the Quest for Glory game there was like one of the city was called Razier, and it was an anagram for Sierra, which was in the game very like a sad and dark place. And in Space Quest there was this whip-toting guy who looked suspiciously like Ken, and in Larry games there was Chief Kenewau who throws Larry outside the door. How were those years? Like, was that some sort of? At least it felt for me.
Maybe some of them were done with a
you were a taskmaster.
But I was a taskmaster.
He still is. On this game, he was a taskmaster, and even with me.
Although, if you hire nothing but perfectionists, people that really care about what they're producing, it's kind of a tough thing. And say you hire an artist to do a piece of art, a really good quality artist will work on that piece of art for weeks and weeks and weeks and never really be happy with it. But if you've got a budget for a game, if you're trying to deliver the game for X dollars, let's call it $10 million, whatever it is. You really have a budget for art, you have a budget for programming, and somebody somewhere has to be the bad guy. If somebody isn't willing to crack the whip, or at least keep an eye on what is the budget.
He didn't have a whip, though.
Not an actual whip.
He didn't really do that.
No, but if there had been one I could have bought, I of course would have bought it. But maybe we could have found a medieval rack. That might have worked.
I think he checks in often.
Yeah.
He watches. He makes sure everybody's working, but he's not a mean guy. So
I'm not mean.
he's not mean.
You don't seem
Try
to be a mean guy.
but I'm not.
Yeah.
But
No, it's somebody on the project has to be looking at the budget, and that's part of what went wrong when. Imagine a company of 1,000 people and 999 just know in their souls they could do a better job if they weren't having me tell them every day get to work and and stop agonizing over that and ship it. Well, what happened is when I was gone, I think things got a little out of control and budgets. Nobody was watching budgets. And that kind of brought the company down. I mean,
in the end, or
like at Sierra. I mean, when
what are you talking about?
well, in the days after the company was sold.
Oh, that one.
Yeah, and when in the days after the company was sold, I think some people have referred to it as kind of like I don't know, happy time or hee-haw time or whatever, because suddenly there was kind of this lack of management and everybody got to work on things as long as they wanted and projects got out of control. So so in some ways, and then, when projects get out of control and start running over budget, then people start killing projects and ultimately it kind of killed the company. So it was sad. I mean, Sierra was a great company that, my saying that I always told everybody was that I wanted to build a company that'd be around for my grandkids. And we didn't do that. We did it, but managed to sell it to people that screwed it up.
Yeah, in the mid 90s, there was this big company bought out and mergers and you were the market leaders for a while.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, how insane to think that you were the market leaders globally for PC. Was it PC software, PC games? What was the section? But
yeah, it was only PC.
Yeah.
But then, like Valve is mostly PC, and you think they've created a pretty good company.
Yeah.
Yeah, PC's not dead for sure.
And we could have, I'm sure we would have expanded at some point into console and everything else.
We should have expanded had we stayed.
And we were the leaders on multiplayer games.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we would have gone. We were poised to really go into the internet and internet games and multiplayer and all that when we sold. So we never really got to get into it, unfortunately.
I always got the idea that you were maybe this much ahead of your time with the online gaming.
A little bit.
No, we were farther than that ahead of our time. I mean, we had people doing flight simulators and gambling online. I mean, we had everything at least 2 years before anybody had heard of the internet other than in colleges.
Yeah.
I mean, Bill Gates personally flew in to see if he should model MSN on it. It was. Wow, we did good. We would have continued to do good, but some crooks defrauded us. And brought it all down.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and that wasn't just Sierra. If I read correctly, wasn't it like the biggest company fraud case in the American history or something?
No, I think, there was Enron.
Yeah, but in the same ballpark.
It was in the same range as, it was a multi-billion-dollar mess. Well, and the company actually had bigger aspirations. They were trying to buy Broderbund and Lucasfilm and us and Blizzard and Davidson. And Blizzard was the only one that kind of survived and thrived out of all that.
Yeah, so everybody else is
kind of gone.
Yeah.
Lucasfilm is back. I mean, they have movies to pay the rent.
Yeah. Disney money.
It was sad. It was sad. They gave us all a line, or meaning that they did not tell the truth of what was going on behind the scenes. We had no idea.
Yeah. I read your book a couple of years ago, Ken's book. I haven't read your book, Roberta, yet. But
okay.
I got the feeling that they started like smoking you and distancing you from the actual gaming and moving you to like general management.
Yeah, we will probably never know what was really going on behind the scenes. And we were told that I was going to help out on shopping because they were a company that wanted to be Amazon, or that was what they told the world.
Yeah.
And this was before Amazon. And, in some ways, I mean, they were targeted correctly. I still don't know who the good guys and the bad guys were. And I'll never know. I know that they went to jail for being crooks, but I guess I'm more open to not knowing what happened than like Roberta is. She's absolutely convinced they were crooks, and
they did go to jail,
and they did convince a jury of 12 that they were crooks. I think although it took them 3 trials, and I always say that you're entitled to a jury by your peers. And I'm not sure that everybody on that, I'm not going to defend them. I mean, they were clearly crooks.
Don't defend them.
They went to jail for a very long time. So, but it's so hard because face to face, they seem like good guys.
Well, of course.
Yeah. I guess some crooks do.
Yeah.
I mean, if somebody has a gun, you at least know they're a crook, but
if
they have a spreadsheet, you don't know.
So, but this happened 22 years ago-ish, about 20 years ago.
No, more than that. It would have been 1996.
25.
It was 1995. Oh. So that'd be almost 30 years ago.
Yeah.
So like 26, 27 years.
Long time ago.
Something like.
Yeah, and at 20 years when you left Sierra, didn't you leave at about 2000?
Well, Ken
in
left
different times.
At different times. I stayed for a year longer because Ken left. It became obvious to him that they were just trying to push him out, a little by little, and he just gave up. He just said, "I'm out," and he went off and did something else.
Yeah, I mean, there's a theory that both Bob Davidson and I were kind of they really didn't want us to know about the financial chicanery, and so they really didn't want anybody to realize what they were doing, and they were faking their financials. And I think, I don't know. I haven't talked to Bob Davidson, so I don't know what was in his mind, but I do think there's a chance that they wanted to get rid of anybody that could spot
what was going on,
the nonsense they were pulling.
But I stayed for an extra year after he left. And Ken wrote about that also in the book.
Yeah,
what I had to go through because I was working on King's Quest 8, and when we started talking to them about selling the company, I was just at the beginning phase of King's Quest 8, just in the design phase, and after Ken left, I found out 2 things. I found out. One is how much Ken, I guess you might say, was protecting me, with every game that I did, how much of an influence he was having over me and over the team that was always working with me, every single team. And when he left, I didn't have that anymore. I didn't have him to be there, be my advocate, to work with the team members, and then that part was bad. And then the second part that was bad is that apparently Davidson was running the company at this point when he left, running the development part, the Sierra part, and they did not like King's Quest. They did not like Phantasmagoria either, and they just stopped sales on Phantasmagoria completely. And it just started, and it was really a relatively new game still. And they didn't like King's Quest, and they told the team behind my back, I didn't know this, that don't listen to Roberta. We want to change the game. We want to change it to something else. And so I did not know that. And so I thought I was working with a team that was, like every other game I ever did, was working with me, but they weren't. They were working against me. And that was very painful. That's why King's Quest 8 is not, everybody says, but it's not like the other King's Quest. Well, that's why.
Yeah, basically, it's like, is it a King's Quest? Basically, that's a good question.
Right. And what they did is they were told, or they wanted to make it into more like an RPG role-playing game, with experience and weapons and, that kind of game. And that's not King's Quest, I mean, at all. And so my team was trying to make it that, and I was trying to undo that and keep it what it's supposed to be. And so what we got was a mixture. So it's not really an adventure game. It's not really an RPG. It's a mixture, and that never works. It doesn't work. It didn't know what it didn't know what it wanted to be. I knew what it wanted to be, but I didn't have the clout to be able to get to do it. And it was very sad. It was hard for me. It was really, really hard.
But
I stayed. I did. Yeah. I stayed
until the end.
Yeah. Until the bitter end. Yeah. I stayed and tried very hard to make it as good as I could. But that it's important that people know that's the reason why King's Quest 8 was so different. And I was trying my best to not let it happen, but it did.
So to recap, you started the company in late 70s. And then in
1980.
Yeah, well, we started in 79, shipped the first product in May of 1980.
And then fast forward about 20 years, and the company went to leader and then quietly dissolved.
You were leading when the company was bought. Yeah. And it should have been a huge company today. So, but isn't.
Had we stayed, it probably would have been one of the biggies.
So had we known, we would have stayed.
Yeah, had we known.
Yeah, so it's sad that we were on top of the industry. Although, I mean, we came out fine, and the better people from Sierra are still in the industry today and doing well. So, I mean, Sierra's kind of living on through the people that are still doing games. Yeah, I was talking to... it's funny how many people I run into that are Sierra alumni that are still doing games and doing well. I mean, Gabe Newell, I mean, with Half-Life, I mean, he's doing okay.
He's doing okay, I guess.
I got a nice car.
But Ken gave him the chance.
I gave him the chance.
His idea.
Metal Jesus is a webcaster, and he worked for us in QA. When I was talking to our contact at Microsoft, she worked with us in QA. When I'm talking to Unity, one of their senior people worked with us at Sierra. So, I mean, almost every company you talk to. We run into
a lot of people that.
So Sierra is kind of living on in a way.
Yeah, in spirit at least.
We got our influence on the business.
After 20 years of making legendary games and running a corporation and teaching me how to read in English and stuff like that, then you retired early and went on a real life adventure.
Yeah.
We were both in our early 40s when we were out of the business, way too young to sit back in the rocking chair. And now what are we going to do? And we signed a non-compete. We couldn't compete in the computer game or video game industry for 5 years. So what are we going to do? And we just decided, we've always been somewhat boaters. We like boats and water. But it had always been like a ski boat, and water skiing and things like that. But we were now living up in the Seattle area. And the Seattle area is very watery. It's water, and it's right there. We get out in the ocean and go and really, really boat and go up into Alaska and up into British Columbia. And it's a very big boating community. So we decided that we would get into boating, and we bought kind of a biggish, like 45-foot boat, and went up into Alaska, and we did that for a while. Not Alaska, but into Canada and around Puget Sound. And we had a lot of fun with it. And then we decided, you know what? We're going to really go for it. We're going to circumnavigate the Earth.
The Earth.
We're going to go around the world. Yes. We're going to cross oceans. And so if we're going to do that, we need a bigger boat, a strong boat, a boat that's made to cross oceans. And we wound up buying a Nordhaven 62. A Nordhaven it's a type of boat. It's kind of based upon fishing boats from the Scandinavian countries, which I think you're from.
Yes.
Where are you from?
I'm from Finland, so
Finland,
next to
yes.
Sweden.
Yeah, next to Sweden and all that. So if you've seen some of the sort of fishing boat trawler types, the Nordhavens were sort of designed around that look of a boat, but made to cross.
Yeah,
oceans.
they're not that big, 19 meters.
And 62 foot, that's that 19 meters.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. But big and heavy and can handle ocean waves and it goes across the ocean. It can go for 1,000 miles, a couple thousand miles between getting new fuel. You go long ways. It goes slow. It's very slow. It's not a fast boat. Very, very slow. And we just traveled around the world for 15 years.
15 years around the world. Doesn't sound very bad.
Kind of our time. In 2004, we crossed the Atlantic, and then we cruised around the Med for a while, and then we shipped the boat. Actually, we sold that boat.
Bought a new boat. I got a new Nordhaven 68, just a little bit bigger.
Started in.
We did it ourselves. We didn't have any crew.
Then we got a slightly bigger boat, 22 meters, and took it from Seattle all the way down to Costa Rica, then up to Alaska, then over to Japan, and went to Turkey, went to Hong Kong.
Sea. We crossed the Bering Sea from Alaska. We actually went into Russia and to get some fuel. We crossed and then down to Japan. And Turkey, all through the Mediterranean.
When we sold Sierra, we were locked out of games for 5 years. And I think at one point we thought, well, after 5 years, we'll come back and start up again. But we were having a lot of fun with the boating.
Yeah, it sounds you had a really good lot of fun.
We had a good time. We wound up more famous for boating for a while than we were because we were like one of the first small boats, power boats. Sailboats have been crossing the Atlantic for years.
Like hundreds.
Power boats with motors
years.
and no sails haven't been doing it. So we were on the cover of most boating magazines for being the first.
We're not only cutting edge in computer games from the beginning, but we were cutting edge in crossing oceans on a power boat.
Yeah, there'd be a lot of times when people come up to us and they say, "Are you Ken and Roberta Williams?" And we have to look and try to figure out if they're boaters.
I do have a funny story about that. We were in a Costco. That's kind of a big shopping
store chain
in the U.S. Yeah, and in Mexico we have one. There's one here in Cabo San Luis. But anyway, we were just shopping and pushing our shopping cart, and this lady comes up. This lady, a bit of an older lady, she came up and she said, are you? And she's looking at me. Ken was down the aisles looking at something, but I've got the shopping cart, and she's looking at me. Are you? And I said, Roberta Williams? She goes, yes. I go, yes. And I was waiting for her to say, how do you, either I played your games or we follow Ken's blog on your boat about your boat. And I didn't know which one it was. So I was waiting for her to say, and how do you know us? I didn't say anything, but she says, we just love your boating adventures. So I said, Ken, get over here.
Yeah, same thing happened.
Your fans.
We're standing in front of Amazon. The kid comes over to us, and we assumed that he knew us from gaming, but he was about boating. So I mean, it's weird. But we've done a lot of good boating.
Career people.
I wrote a bunch of books about boating, and now we're kind of at a pivot point again where we don't know if our
what to do.
Future is boats or games. I definitely think that if we wanted to create another Sierra, we could. Although it's a lot of work. Honestly, that's something that younger people need to do. Not. We do stuff for fun now. We do things that are fun for us or appeal to us to do.
I told my mom that I'm interviewing of course, because you always tell your mom when you do stuff. And she said, like, coming back from retirement to your old job after this much time, how did it feel? What was?
Oh, it was hard work.
Yeah.
And in some ways, for me, maybe not for Ken, although you worked pretty hard. We worked for almost 2 years on this game, Colossal Cave, for 7 days a week, essentially 7 days a week. Didn't even take weekends off. And most of the day, from the time we got up till, at dinner time. And then even then we'd go back to work. It was a lot of work and to do this. And I don't remember it being that much work back when we had Sierra. And I was thinking about that, why was it so much more work doing this game than it was doing, for me, Phantasmagoria, it was kind of like this. It was a lot of work, but generally it wasn't, and not this hard. And the answer is because we had Sierra. So we had a whole team. We had a whole structure. We had marketing. We had programming divided into the engineer. What do you call them? Like the.
Well, we had a full team. We had all those groups.
We had an artist group, we had animator group, we had sound and music group, we had QA, we had a QA department. We had a sales team, we had marketing team. We were a company. And so for me, I just needed to have write my design and work with the team I was given. And we had a lot of support from Sierra. And so it wasn't as hard. We didn't have Sierra. It was just him and I. So we had to do everything. So not only did I have to work on the design and make sure it was fine, but I was the art director. I was never an art director in Seattle. In Sierra. I had to be the sound director and the music director. I was never the sound or music director with Sierra. Both Ken and I have been marketing on this game. Sales. So we're sort of back everything. So we're sort of back to what we were at the very, very beginning of Sierra. And when we were working just as hard.
Yeah, it's kind of good and kind of bad. Kind of like having, it's kind of fun. That's everybody would say game development is ultimately fun. I really don't know yet what we're going to do. I think what we're probably going to do is think about it. And if an inspiration hits us, something fun we want to do, then we'll do it. And whether that'll be on a boat or on a computer, I really don't know yet. Yeah.
And some of it, I think, will depend on Colossal Cave itself. And yeah.
I have one question about Colossal Cave, and this is one of my viewers' question, or actually it's related to that. Is it possible to die in Colossal Cave?
Yes.
So
a lot.
Dying is back because he wanted me to ask you about the dying in the games.
Yeah, well, one of the things that we've been discovering very recently is and something that I've actually worried about somewhat is, a couple ways to put this. This is the original adventure. This game is the original adventure. It started, the idea of an adventure game was Colossal Cave, and it is what it is. As far as game design and gameplay, not, forget the fact of text, it was text, not graphics. It was parser, but you typed in what you wanted to do with it. That's just UI, that's just UI. But the gameplay itself is what it is. And so I decided to keep it what it is as far as gameplay. And then of course we added the graphics capability, graphics and 3D with VR and on PCs, flat screen. And we did that, sound effects, music, animation, and the characters that were in the original are still in, but we had to design them. We had to, well, what did they look like? What did they look like? How did they move? What did they say? Have dialogue, and and all that kind of stuff. But I always worried that because Colossal Cave is not an easy game to play, just the gameplay itself. And I always did worry about how it was going to fare with today's modern gamers. Not this nostalgic people and the people that played it in the past as it was and loved it. But today's game players. And I worried about it because it takes some work to play Colossal Cave. You have to think. It's you have to take notes. You have to take notes. And in the old days, you had to map. You had to map your way through it. You had to do the map yourself.
Yeah.
We supply a map. We map it for you. You don't have to do that.
Yeah, we only got
we got
minutes. I got to do another meeting, but let me add one thought to this one, which is that if you die in this game, you kind of had to work at it because, first off, there's cliffs you can walk off of. And if people do that and they get killed, then they kind of should expect it. But there is save, there is restore. We encourage them to save frequently. And actually, in the original game, there's something called resurrection. If it gives you 3 times to be resurrected, and it doesn't take away any inventory, it charges a few points. But that's it.
It keeps you going.
But it keeps you going. So in order to actually die, you have to be resurrected 3 times.
Then it won't resurrect you anymore.
And then it won't resurrect you anymore. But then you just start playing again, or you restore one of your save games. It's not a big deal.
I found playing it, because I even will die sometimes. You get going, you start going fast through the game.
Yeah.
And you run, going through it. And you if you're not careful in some places, you could just run over the edge of a cliff and you're dead.
That sounds like an excellent return to the roots. In like King's Quest, you can walk.
Yes.
But
but here's the question for me that I was worried about. Traditional adventure games, I don't know what they're like now. And honestly, from my standpoint, that's one of the things that surprised me is what is an adventure game? I always thought I knew what an adventure game was. After all, that's what I did for a living. But apparently, an adventure game has many different definitions these days.
You could say that.
And so now, and so that worried me because it's like, well, this game falls into the traditional old, more old style 80s, 90s style adventure. But a lot of people now insist that, this game where, there's a lot of action and, or RPG type games or, even a lot of multiplayer games, those are adventure games. And I'll say,
are they though?
Not in my opinion, not as the actual genre as it was. So I think some of the people that are playing it, it's like, I don't think they have a real good understanding of an adventure game and what it means, what you need to do. And it's a slower paced game. You need to think what you're doing. You can't just be running around, and thinking that you're seeing the game. And the other thing about this game is it starts off fairly easy. It gives you the sense that you can just start exploring right away. So it feels simplistic at first. But it doesn't take long. You get into the cave, you get down into more of the depths of it, and you start running into the real meat of the game and the strategy and the things that are hard and complex. And there are levels. And that's where you run into that. And a lot of the reviews are not going that far to get it and understand it.
Colossal Cave came out some hours ago, I guess, maybe a day ago while we're talking.
A day ago. Uh-huh.
This is Pointtaa&Klikkaa Podcast. I've been talking with Ken and Roberta Williams, and 2 absolute legends and real-life adventurers. Thank you very much for giving me the time, and I hope all the best in your future endeavors.
Well, thank you. We appreciate that.
Thank you. Much appreciated. And anytime, if you want to talk to us again, just say the word.
That would be excellent, since I think we only scratched the surface. Thank you very much, and maybe we'll talk later. This has been an absolute honor.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
For us too.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.